Hi everybody, Troy from the Do-It-Yourself World and the Off-Grid Project, sitting here in my tiny house on wheels in a short sleeve shirt. The wind is blasting powerfully outside and it's 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not exactly warm. And if you go out there, the wind pierces through your clothes and there's stuff blowing sideways through the yard. I'm getting wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour today. The reason I'm saying this is I'm sitting here warm and cozy in my tiny house on wheels. And I want to tell you about this video is basically a summary of 3 years of living off the grid. I have now been fully off the grid for 3 years. And I want to share with you my experiences, what I've gone through, how it feels, some of the pros and cons of being off the grid after this period, some of the things I miss, some of the things that I don't miss, any regrets. We'll compare being off the grid to living on the grid, and I want to tell you my opinions and my thoughts after being 3 years off the grid. Where to start? It's a big topic. It's something I've been actually taking notes on because it's really hard to just jump in. One of the nicest things about living off the grid is the freedom from all the utilities. Well, I don't know if you heard that, but the wind just blasted against the house again. The freedom from utilities. And the escape from the rat race. My last job, I felt like I was getting up in the morning to go to work so I could earn money to put gas in the car to go to work. And that was it. It was a vicious cycle. I would work so I could put gas in the car so I could go to work. And I really had nothing left at the end of each month. And I was working long, hard hours and driving 45 minutes to work one way and back. So it was an hour and a half driving. And the job I had before that, I was driving an hour and a half one way to New York City. And with traffic, it can be 3 to 5 hours one way. One time it took me 5 hours to get to New York City to get to work. I was obviously late. I don't miss the stress of getting up in the morning to go to work, to earn money, to put gas in the car so you can go to work. I don't miss that at all. I love the fact that I get up in the morning and my own boss. I'm my own boss. That is more along the lines of becoming self-sufficient, so we won't touch on that as much, but that's part of my life here and that's part of my experience. The peace of being your own boss. The peace of not having someone yell at you constantly and not telling you when you cannot take off or if you're sick that you have to work or whatever. That is a big thing in becoming self-sufficient. But again, I'm straying off. I think I'll talk about self-sufficiency on a separate video one day and really go into that in detail. Now, a lot of my daily viewers are going to wonder why I'm doing this video now. That's because I've been planning it for a while, for months, and because right now I'm working upstairs in the tiny house, in the bedroom, just organizing and cleaning and getting ready for the new bed, the new mattress that's coming. Those of you who watch my daily videos know about that, and I'm not going to let you watch me just cleaning up, right? Sweeping the floor and moving boxes and putting things out into storage and whatever. So it's a perfect time for me to finally do this video that has been long in coming. The freedom from utilities. I don't have any electric bills, I don't have any water bills, I don't have any sewage bills. That is nice. The reduction in bills makes you feel good. There is freedom when you don't have these bills looming over your head. And at the end of each month, bills, 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 bills. That is a very nice thing when you have fewer bills going out. I do have a cell phone and I do have an internet bill only because I make a living on YouTube, internet videos. But otherwise I wouldn't probably even have internet out here. A cell phone would be sufficient to do occasional searches and browsing something you need to research quickly if you're out gardening and there's a particular bug or something problematic. But I make a living on YouTube, so therefore I have internet. And that's the only reason. I still consider that I'm off the grid because I don't have any connection to the power grid. Off the grid means no connection to the utility lines, the power grid. I am a mile from the last paved road, and there's not even anything but a 2-track lane that I've made with my car to get to my house. So I am truly off the grid as far as that goes. Another advantage, a great thing, is I have no power outages. When you're on the grid and you live in the country like out here, you get ice storms, storms, wind storms, tree branches fall down, power lines get broke. You're without power, and you're at the mercy of other people. You're fully at their mercy. People don't realize how much you are at the mercy of others when you are on the grid. There is no power outage here unless I plan it. There's no power failure unless I've organized it. There is no suddenly spontaneous poof, everything goes out. It doesn't happen. It does not happen when you're off the grid. I remember one day 3 years ago, I went into town to go in and get some supplies, and there was no power. I had just been working on the internet in my camper back then. I was just working on the internet, happy as anything. Shut everything down, went into town, there's no power. I didn't even know it. That made me feel really good. That is such a good feeling when knowing that you have stability in your power, that you don't lose power spontaneously. That was one of my happiest moments of living off the grid up to that time. Heat is a big issue. I always thought, when I started out, I suffered miserably in the cold because I had a dilapidated, aerated camper, and I had a very weak heating system. Moved into the RV, and also very weak heating system. It was very cold. I would not advise anybody to really live in a camper or motorhome unless they're insulated properly for that purpose if you live up north in cold climates. It's just really cold. They're hard to heat, they're hard to insulate, they're hard to seal up. They're going to leak, they're drafty. I know that from experience. It was still satisfying living off the grid in my own camper, my own RV. I was very happy, I have to tell you that. Even though I suffered, I was very satisfied with the fact that I was in charge of my own heat, light, water, and everything. That felt very good, I have to say. Even at the worst extremes of suffering, I still was happy. I know it's hard to believe until you've been there, but it's a very satisfying experience to be in control of your own life. Now, heat. I was over visiting friends last night, on the grid friends, and every time I go I have to take a sweater because it's going to be cold in their house because they can't afford to heat the place. But look at me now. It's freezing cold outside. My food is frozen rock solid. I don't even have a refrigerator on because there's no point. My food is outside rock solid. Freezing cold out, and I'm sitting here comfy and cozy. Actually, it's it's 75 degrees in here. That feels good. Now, you would think living off the grid in the winter and in northern extremes, it means you're going to be cold. Not necessarily. I produce my own heat. Therefore, I'm in control. I have a wood stove, and I cut firewood myself, and I can put in as much firewood as I want. I'm in full control of how much firewood I put in that thing and what temperature I set in my tiny house on wheels. And I tell you, that feels so good. Every time I go to an on-the-grid friend's home and I feel cold, it reminds me of how cozy this tiny house on wheels is that I'm building myself. Because I don't pay for heat. And I saw something in the comments that really made me think a few days ago when a man said, I can't remember if he was retired or disabled or what, but said he couldn't afford to heat up his home. He just didn't have enough money to heat his home. And I feel so bad because back in the day, everybody had wood heat and everybody provided their own fuel. And there shouldn't be a need for suffering like that, especially on the grid. You wouldn't think there should be suffering for people on the grid. But when you're in your own control, you control your own comforts and your own utilities. You have the power over your own life. And that's some of the other major bonuses and advantages of being off the grid. I am in absolute and full control over my own comforts and my own conveniences. We've covered power, we've covered water, heat, next is water. Water is the toughest thing to organize off the grid. Water is my biggest struggle and my biggest trial yet. I'm working on it. I have purchased some water tanks, which I'm waiting for delivery. I hope to expand my rainwater collection system to a couple thousand gallons this year. I do have problems with freezing water because I don't have a well. My water is above ground, and I harvest rainwater off the roof of my tiny house. Before that, it was the motorhome, the roof of the motorhome. Before that, I was using the roof of the camper. And before that, I had those metal sheets of metal stuck out in the meadow, and that going into a big water tank. But I've always collected rainwater for my bathing and washing needs. I don't drink it, but I collect rainwater. That has been, as I say, my toughest struggle. But hopefully that'll all be taken care of soon. Right now I have about 700 gallons of rainwater collected. Although it's frozen up pretty hard right now because I was sick for a while. Once I get it thawed out, or on days when the sun is shining like today, the water thaws a little bit and I can use some. And I remember last winter it would freeze in the mornings and thaw in the afternoons on a sunnier day. The valve would thaw out so I could use the water. So I always had some water every day. What I do is I fill up a bunch of jugs, bring them inside, and use it as needed. So I'm not suffering, I'm not going without water, it's just tougher. So rainwater is my weak point. It really is. If you have a well and you live off the grid, great. But then you've got to deal with the power to pump the water up from underground to provide your house. And that's another issue in itself with the energy to pump that water. So that brings me to what I miss the most. I think there's only one thing I miss from living on the grid. The only thing I miss is long, hot showers. Really. When I'm in a hotel or traveling somewhere or visiting somebody where I know they have good heat and water and they can afford it, I'll take a long, hot shower. And I'll actually lather up 2 to 3 times and wash myself fully and just enjoy the feel of water turning on a valve and having unlimited hot water flowing over you. That is my biggest thing that I miss. I think the only thing that I really miss from modern conveniences. And I've really given it a lot of thought. I took notes, and that's the only thing I have on here that I could think of. Looking around my tiny house on wheels, I've got all the comforts I could ever need here. And I provide it all for my own self. So, yep, water. Water is the biggest thing. Some of the cons of living off grid is because you are providing your own utilities, water, power, waste disposal. I'll get to waste disposal. It is more work. You've always got to sweep your solar panels, wash your solar panels, clean the solar panels, adjust the solar panels, move the solar panels. It's a lot of work. Chipmunks and squirrels eat the wires. It happens all the time. I don't tell you guys so much about it because I just go out and deal with it real quick without thinking because I've got to get the power on. But chipmunks and squirrels, they mess with your lines. They're going to mess with your power. I just lost my refrigerator not long ago. I have a propane refrigerator, a camper refrigerator, propane-powered camper refrigerator that I have had out back for 3 years now. Serves me well. And I went out one day and there was gas in the air, propane leaking, and sure enough, squirrels had eaten the propane hose, cutting a hole in it, and causing a leak. They are destructive. Leading me to another thing that I sort of miss is refrigeration. Having a plugged-in-the-wall refrigerator that just sits there all the time, and it's always working. Having a massive refrigerator that you can just stuff anything you want into it. Living off the grid, baby no, baby cat wants to push the tripod. Living off the grid, I have a small apartment style refrigerator running off propane, and I don't have as much storage space as I would like for cold foods. That is a big issue. I do have plans to overcome that one day by digging a hole in the earth, but I'm going to need earth moving equipment, and then lining it with something to stop the walls from collapsing, putting a roof on it, covering that, and have cold food storage underground, and maybe putting a fridge under there, some kind of refrigeration device, which will require less power. But for now, that's a future thing, that's a dream, and something I don't have at this time. So there's another con. Where was I though? I was talking about the utilities, the work involved with... Baby cat keeps trying to go to the tripod feet. She likes to push on it when I'm talking. There's more work involved with producing your own power, with providing your own water. I always have to worry about the water freezing in winter and algae growing in the tanks in summer. I'm working on solving those issues, but that's going to take time. The waste disposal is definitely a lot more work. I have a composting toilet, so instead of flushing your toilet, I crank a handle. It's waterless, so there's less water waste. There is no water waste. But you're always working with cleaning tanks yourself and dealing with the compost yourself and the liquid waste yourself. It is messy. Not really. I mean, I don't get all covered in stuff, but I mean, it's not as pleasant as just flushing the toilet and walking away happily. So there's more work involved in living off the grid and providing your own utilities and waste management. But then again, I have to tell you, if you've never heard of it or never read it, read the book Humanure, Humanure. It will change the way you think about our modern waste disposal system. And after reading that book, I was so affected and so changed in my thinking. I feel guilty every time I use a normal toilet. Seriously. I hate using standard flushing toilets. They are so wasteful and so horrible. Read the book Humanure if you haven't heard of it. You can download it for free or you can buy it. I don't remember. I had seen it somewhere for free online. I don't know how legal that is or what, but you can buy the book. Just look it up, Google it, and get the book Humanure. It should change your thinking on waste management and disposal. So that's another thing. I'm in control of that. It's very hands-on though. It is requiring a lot more work, but it is satisfying in that I'm not polluting the environment. I'm not contaminating the environment. The power I produce is clean and pure and not producing or not contaminating the environment. Once the solar panels are produced and the electronics are made, there's no extra contamination to the environment. There's no pollution. There's no waste with solar power or wind energy. So it's a cleaner energy. It truly is a cleaner, greener energy. And that is satisfying as well, knowing that there's no radioactive or coal spewing, smoke spewing thing providing the energy to my house, and that energy which could go out at any given time without any no warning to me. That is satisfying. And yeah, it pretty much covers, I think, all of my notes and all of the points. I am truly happy I made that step to get off the grid. I am very much at peace. People who knew me 3.5 years ago see a whole totally different person right now. I was really stressed and always go, 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 rush, rush, rush. When you live in New York, especially if you lived in New York City for a period, you get into this attitude that everything is rush, 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 go, 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 fast pace, move, move, move. Everything's in a schedule, everything's stressful, and you just have no peace. Even when you're trying to relax, you're on a schedule. You've got a tight schedule. You got to get back to town. You got to beat the traffic. You got to do this. You got to do that. People have noticed a huge difference in me since I moved off the grid. Much more relaxed and much more at peace. So that's a big thing. Would I go back to the grid? No. Do I ever want to go back? No. No. All I want to do is keep improving what I have. Any regrets at all? No. Do I miss it? Just the hot showers, which I have hot showers. It's just, again, more work because I have to provide everything myself. But I wouldn't trade that. Anything I have here, I wouldn't trade it for going back on the grid for anything. I have no desire to go back on the grid. For those of you thinking about taking the plunge, sure, I've struggled more and I've had more trials than the average person because I've done it on a budget. I started out with $100 a month and I had to work an extra job on the side while making full-time YouTube videos. I had to have an extra job because my rent was $200 a month. And of course, once you're working a job, then you've got gas in the car and more maintenance, and you're back halfway in the rat race, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And I was so happy when I was able to stop that job and just provide my bare monthly minimum costs through my own selling of products or whatever that I made myself or working on the internet. It's very satisfying. So I don't ever want to go back. I had a taste of it, as I said, but for those of you considering it, if you're not on a minimum budget like I am, like I said, I had $100 a month. My expenses were more than my income. If you're not in that situation, you'll be fine. It takes a big psychological overcoming to make that first step. And I have to admit, when I made that first step off the grid, it was terrifying, the idea. But once I did it, once I went out and took the plunge, the first 2-3 days I sat there and I kept saying to myself, what have I got myself into? What have I done? But after a couple weeks of that, you get into the flow of things start going smoothly, and it's very satisfying. So just keep that in mind. If you're going off the grid and you don't have much money at all, it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard. I am not going to lie to you. If you've got all the money in the world and money is not a problem, and finances aren't a problem, and you get this massive array of solar panels and a beautifully insulated home and rainwater or wells or whatever, and you got a spring nearby and everything's perfect and happy, then good for you. It's going to be a nice life. And you probably won't have as much maintenance or work as I do, or as the people on a budget. So there's a lot more maintenance involved. Checking your batteries, maintaining your batteries, keeping them clean, topping off the batteries. There's a lot of work involved with living off the grid, but it is very satisfying. So that pretty much summarizes my time. 3 years off the grid. Just about in about just less than a month, I will have been fully 3 years off the grid. So that's it. Talk to you all later. Troy from the Do It Yourself World and the Off Grid Project. Out.